Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. Um, Great to have two people with me today. So I've got author Loraine Peck and Karina Kilmore, one of our Global Girls Online Book Club's associated authors, is also joining me for the interview. So really great, thanks for joining me. For those who don't know, Loraine Peck started her career as a portrait painter and magician's assistant in Sydney. You certainly have led a very interesting life, it sounds like. And after being sawn in half one too many times, she switched to dealing blackjack on the Gold Coast. Bartending and slinging lobsters in the US led to a sales job in the movie industry before she was propelled into a career in marketing in Australia, the Middle East, Asia, and the US. Consumed by a desire to write crime thrillers, she decided to stop everything and do a writing course to learn how to write the kind of books she loved to read. Her first novel, The Second Son, won the 2021 Ned Kelly Award for Best Debut Crime Fiction from the Australian Crime Writers Association. And just showing my copy here, and just want to say what a great read it is. Really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Jackie. That's very kind of you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And now Loraine is working on a sequel to The Second Son, and Loraine and her husband spend their time between Sydney and the Gold Coast. So thanks, Loraine, for joining us. Just wondering if you want to start off by telling everyone a bit about The Second Son.
Sure. It's a book about a crime family. And the second son, Johnny Novak, is he's kind of a little bit on the fringes of the really illegal stuff. And he's married to a nice middle-class Aussie chick named Amy. And Johnny Novak is a Croatian. He comes from a Croatian family. And his older brother, his idolized older brother, is gunned down in the street putting out the bins, which we know happens quite a bit in Sydney, especially at the moment. And and so Johnny has to step up, and he's tasked with seeking revenge. And that pits his Croatian crew against the local Serbian gang, because there's a whole lot of history between the Croatians and the Serbians. But we find some involvement from the bikies, the Lebanese gangs. There's everyone kind of gets involved. So Johnny is very much consumed with trying to do his duty as a son and to his crime family. But he's torn because his wife, Amy Novak, wants to run. She wants to take their 10-year-old son, Sasha, and escape as the violence escalates. And it's a story about their marriage and how that works out between them. And it's told from both Johnny's point of view and Amy's point of view. So we get to see kind of both sides of how that marriage is being pulled apart by the situation they find themselves in. And as things escalate, we get to know more of the background of the family. We get to know the various characters. The patriarch of Johnny's family, Milan Novak, is a brutal man, and Johnny was very much brought up in a life of crime. That's all he ever knew that's how all he knew about. And his character was inspired by my husband, Stead, who is also Croatian, but did not grow up in a crime family. Let me get that straight. But, he grew up in, a very working class part of Sydney, which is where the novel is set. And like Johnny Novak, he's dyslexic. He left school at 14, and he was absolutely destined for a life of crime. He managed to kind of pivot in his late teens and choose the life of becoming a businessman instead, a legitimate businessman. But Johnny Novak is born into a crime family. So the question I kept asking myself while I was writing the book is, can you ever escape a life of crime if that's all you ever know?
Yeah, that's a great theme. Absolutely fabulous. But I just want to say this again. Winner of the Ned Kelly Award for Best Debut. You know, absolute legend. You know.
Amazing.
And can I say that your acceptance speech has to go down in history as one of the best all-time acceptance speeches. And for those who haven't seen it, it's on the Australian Crime Writers website, and you'll see Loraine accepting her speech, and it's just fabulous. You know, it's what everything is about for a debut writer. But step us back. Why did you write a novel? Why and how did you manage to write this novel?
Well, I'd always wanted to write a novel because I'm a crime thriller, because I love crime thrillers. That's what I read and have been reading since I was a kid. You know, I read the whole Trixie Belden series, and then I kind of graduated to James Bond. You know, I love action thrillers, and I kind of got into sort of mysteries and crime procedurals later. I really loved kind of action, and I was reading The Drive by Jane Harper, brilliant book, and at the end in the acknowledgement section, and I always love to read the acknowledgement section because, you know, I don't want it to end. If it's a good book, I don't want it to end. So I'm really, and she talks about doing the Curtis Brown Creative Writing course online and how she'd written the book, The Drive, whilst doing that course. And I thought, wow, I didn't know you could do creative writing courses online. I could do that, you know. So I kind of Googled the Curtis Brown Creative Writing course, and I read the prerequisites, and I thought, ooh, that's really advanced. I can't do that. Ooh, I don't know what I'm doing yet. So then I did a course with the Writers Studio in Sydney called the First Draft Writing Course online. And during that course, I just kind of basically followed the instruction, come up with the character that you think you can live with for years, because you will be spending a lot of time with them. Come up with a character who really interests you, and what is it that you want? What is it you want to find out about this character? And for me, I'm always intrigued by kind of everyday heroes, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And so I came up with this fellow who was, you know, he was a criminal, but, you know, he was not a bad guy. He always tried to do his best. He was like a gangster with a conscience. And then, so I kind of came up with this guy, kind of inspired a bit by Stead, as I mentioned, the Croatian angle. I thought, well, that would be of interest, and it would be interesting to me anyway. And so then you just have to take this character on a hero's journey during that course, and you really kind of led by the hand, like how to construct a first draft. The book went through many, many drafts during that draft and that book you were holding earlier. But yeah, that's what got me started. Just that chance, you know, like sometimes those little messages from the universe happen and you go, oh, I can try that. So I did.
And how long from when you did that course to when we actually got to see the book?
I started it in 2016. It went over into 2017. And then straight after that course, I got into the Curtis Brown Creative course that Jane Harper had done, which was a selected course. There was me and 14 other students around the world some of whom I'm still really good friends with. And so I did that course, and that was 2017 into 2018. And then you're introduced to the agents at Curtis Brown. There's Curtis Brown Creative, which is the educational arm, and Curtis Brown, the literary agency. And I sent my book to Alice Lutchens, who was Jane Harper's agent in London, because obviously I was obsessed with Jane Harper. And she is my unwitting mentor. We've never met. She doesn't know me, but she is my mentor. And Alice loved the book. So then that became, then the publishing kind of thing happened. And in Australia, I'm published by the wonderful people at Text Publishing. And that deal was signed in October 2019. And then it took another kind of nearly 18 months of working with my lovely editor there, Penny Houston, to get the book ready to be published. And that happened in February this year. So 5 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is that timeline? It's almost 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. So for all those other debut, and I'm a debut author as well. So for all those other debut authors, 5 years is sort of almost like standard, isn't it?
Well, is that how long it took you? And by the way, I absolutely loved your book. Everyone out there, if you haven't read it, get it now. It's absolutely fantastic.
It's all about you, Loraine. No, it didn't take 5 years in my case, but that was a little bit different because I went through a competition. But let me just backtrack you. I love the way how you've structured the book. It's two timelines. It's almost a his and her story. And that's so rare in a crime family story, because you only ever mainly hear about the male side of crime. But your book is so unique in that it has the his and the her story. Tell us, why did you do that structure?
Well, it didn't start out that way. It started out very much as an action thriller told from Johnny's point of view in third person, in past tense. So kind of a very different structure. And then during that Curtis Brown course, I was told in no uncertain terms that my female characters were cardboard and that I needed to do a bit of work on that. So I wrote, and I completely agreed. So I wrote one scene from Amy's point of view, and it's made it into the book in pretty much exactly how I wrote it, in first person, in present tense. And it's when she meets Johnny in the bar in Parramatta, and they end up going to Croatia, and that whole scene is what I wrote. And then I sent it off to my fellow students, and they're all like, "Oh, we love Amy. We want more Amy." Yeah. So then I thought, well, okay, I love writing Amy. She came to me really easily. And my friends have actually asked me if there are some similarities between me and Amy, apart from the fact that she's a nearly 6 foot gorgeous blonde and I'm 5'2.5", and obviously brunette. But there are some little similarities, I guess. And she took over about a third of the book. Every scene she was in, she took over, and it was from her point of view. And then Johnny moved to first person and present tense, because that's actually how I write. And so I'd write everything in present tense, and then I have to go back and change it to past tense, because that's what you're supposed to do, have it in past tense, or so I thought. But it's not how I write. So then everything moved to present tense. And when I started working with Penny Houston at Text, she said, well, Amy needs to own half the book, not a third of the book. So then I had to write more scenes from Amy's point of view, which gave us, allowed us to delve in deeper. And I said to Penny at the time, I'm really afraid that this is going to slow the book down, because, it's an action thriller. And she said, Johnny provides the action thriller. Amy provides the psychological thriller. And then you've got a murder mystery hanging in between. And I thought, okay, all right then.
I have to say, Amy was my favourite character. I really enjoyed. Yeah.
Actually, that's what I want to ask you, Loraine. And I have to say that I helped Loraine launch her book when it was first released earlier this year with Readings bookstores. But I wanted to ask you, who's your favourite character in The Second Son?
Milan.
Okay, which is the dad for everyone who hasn't read it. Yeah.
And he speaks in when I'm writing from Milan's point of view, I'd say from this accent, and he speaks in a broken English kind of the way he speaks, and he is brutal and he is the bastard, and I love him. Every time I write anything that Milan is saying, he cracks me up. He's just so mean and kind of just he has only one way, and it's brutal and so I just find him hilarious. But I like writing all of them, but Milan's my favorite.
And then at the end of the book, it's very clear that there's going to be another book in the series. Did you had you been signed up for another book when you started writing that, or?
Well, when Tex got to read it for the first time, that ending was in place. So they gave me a 2-book deal. Yeah. And there may have been some kind of commercial sense around that being a good idea when I wrote it. And plus, I just really I like that kind of ending. Originally, it just sort of had have you ever read watched True Romance, an early Tarantino film with Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette?
Yeah.
And John Gandolfini. Oh my God, so great. Such a great film. Watch it now. Anyway, the ending of that was kind of that paradise, everything works out moment was what I was kind of going for. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and just went, I know what I'm going to do to them now. Because, of course, all the way through writing a book, you're constantly having to throw terrible things at your characters. I mean, it's all about conflict. And whenever I would run into a bit of a brick wall about what would happen next, I would just write down 10 terrible things that could happen to Johnny now or Amy. And whichever one made me think, oh, that's really terrible. Poor Johnny. I'll do that. So, yeah, that kind of happened. I'm not going to say what happened.
Yeah, no. But we've got a few people watching, and a lot of people are interested to know, and I'm not sure if you're able to say this or not, but will we see all of the characters in the next novel?
I am right in the heart of writing that now. I'm up to about the 4th draft, and it's still moving around, and because it's a bit too chunky at the moment, and I'm trying to squeeze it down a bit. And I had to kill someone else. And I was walking around the park going, who am I going to kill? And it kind of came to me that I needed to kill someone else, which is always fun. So anyway, moving around. But the answer is currently yes.
Good. Yeah, because they're all great characters.
Yeah.
But also, Loraine, you have got a little connection to the story that not everyone may know as well, that you were your ex-husband had a bit of a criminal past as well. So you were the wife of a criminal. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the sort of connection that my friends see between me and Amy, obviously. Johnny and his family, they're all career criminals. And I was married to a career criminal, although he had retired when we got married.
Okay.
But some of those, some things are hard to leave behind. And when we separated, he went back to the States, and he was caught with 100 kilos of marijuana in Louisville, Kentucky. So of course, though we'd separated, we weren't divorced. So we went through a very torrid time of trying to get him out. That was a very, very interesting time in my life. I felt like I was living in someone else's movie. Visiting him in jail in the Litchfield County Detention Centre.
It's all good fodder and research, though, for a crime writer, isn't it? In hindsight,
absolutely. And he's back home. He's happy. He's married. He's got a kid. I mean, kids. Sorry, his life is golden again. Thank God. But people veer off track sometimes. And like I said, my husband, my current husband, hopefully my last husband, also could very easily have gone down that track. So I must be drawn to bad boys in some way or another. Maybe. Possible.
And people watching as well are interested to know what sort of books you like reading yourself, and maybe if you want to recommend anything to us.
Absolutely. I've been reading a lot of Australian crime over the last couple of years as I've been welcomed into the Australian crime community, which is extraordinarily gracious and welcoming as an entity. And people like Candice Fox, I love Candice's work. She's got her own unique voice, and I find her books incredibly well plotted, really well paced, really fast, because I like a fast book, and also funny. She has a way of making you laugh out loud every now and then, just to release that tension, which is really important, I think. I love Anna Downs. She's just brought out her second book, which is a brilliant. I mean, her first book, The Safe Place, was awesome. The second book, The Shadow House, is really scary. I mean, it's probably sort of a bit scarier than I would normally read. It's almost a little gothic. I mean, I can tell she really likes Stephen King, but it's also, which is it's a bit different from her first book, but it's also, really delves deep into sort of abusive relationships and how you leave that behind. And I found that really interesting, because some things around my second book where I'm delving into that a bit more as well. So, and Gary Disher, of course, the master, the king of Sunburnt Noir, Chris Hammer. But I also love Leanne Moriarty and Trent Dalton too, when I want something a little more, I don't know, with a bit more something, with a bit more sunshine in it. And Nicola Moriarty, Leanne's sister, is a fantastic crime writer. Her last book was absolutely incredible. I've just discovered J.P. Pomare. Am I saying his name right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, okay, good. Because I, for some reason, just hadn't read his work yet, and I'm now just churning through it. All his books are so, I mean, they're so well paced, and they're not that thick either, so you can just power through them in like one sitting.
But back to you, Loraine.
Oh, I could just sorry.
Yeah, that's right. But it's all about you tonight. Yeah. Tell us, what was the hardest part about the hardest thing about writing The Second Son? I'll play some hold music.
Sorry. I mean, it was all felt really fairly straightforward because I just, as luck would have it, I picked two great courses to do that really kind of, especially the first draft course. Anyone out there who wants to write a book, just do that course. It's brilliant because the first draft is kind of the hardest, but it's also kind of the easiest. In your first book, like, there's no fear attached. There's no deadlines attached. You're just writing a book, and you have no idea if anyone's ever going to read it. Like, let alone you're going to get an agent, you're going to get published, etc. So the first book just kind of comes with no sort of strings attached, or the second book's much harder in comparison. But I guess learning to take notes from my agent and then my editor, like, and really, instead of paying lip service to those notes, delve deeper and work out how to make those changes. And especially the ones where you go, no, that's never going to happen. And then you have to tell yourself, I'll just try it and see. And then you try it and you go, okay, well, maybe she's got a point there. And, away you go again. So that would probably be the hardest thing. But really, it wasn't that hard compared to writing my second book, which is harder.
And that is one last question for you. That is something that I think, sorry, I lost the name, Wendy, I think, asked. Oh, no, sorry, Sarah Joy asked. So what kind of pressure, like The Second Son's done really well, it's won Ned Kelly Award. What sort of pressure's on you for your second book?
Well, a lot more than the first book, that's for sure. But also, I mean, my publisher's text is, it's a partnership, and I delivered the first very rough draft of the sequel at the end of last year, before The Second Son had even come out yet. That didn't come out until February, and they were very honest with me. They said, really, there's a lot more work to be done here, which didn't surprise me at all because it was really rough. And so they've given me the time that I need to do that. They're not trying to rush me to bringing the second book out quickly. I don't have to get it out next year. I would like to, but that probably won't happen. It's about writing the book I really want to write, and getting it right, and giving me the time to do that. So, that's so, in other words, they're not putting me under pressure. I'm putting myself under pressure, but they're just being really supportive.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Been really great chatting to you. Before we go, do you want to just let people know how they can keep in touch with you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm on Facebook as Loraine Peck Author. My name only has one R in Loraine, so that's a tricky one. On Instagram as Loraine Peck Author. On Twitter, I'm Loraine Peck Auth, because you don't ever get enough letters to do anything other than auth. On my website, lorainepeck.com, has got contact details, so you can get in touch that way too. And I'd love to hear from you. Love it. Please get in touch.
Well, thanks, and thanks, Karina, for joining me again as well. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye, Loraine.
Thank you both very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Mwah.
Bye.
Mwah.